Texas in any game. And again, Kentucky used to be able to put up points in the past. 43.5 is crazy because it just feels like Texas is going to come in, play really good defense, and try to squeeze this game out. It'll be interesting to see because nothing got ailed from that victory last week. Texas is back. I'm just being facetious at this point. But if we see one of those performances 17-14 Texas.
In the fourth quarter.
Yeah, come on.
Right? I mean, really. I mean, they got a gift last week.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it looks like the Bengals fantasy pieces are back. What did you make of that Joe Flacco performance on Thursday night? Turning back time.
Yeah, it was great for a guy like me with gray in the beard. I love seeing it. I love my representation. But at the end of the day, just from a wagering standpoint, if this continues, it'll give some consistency and it'll give some value back to those tools that you were mentioning on the Bengals.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Defense is above average this year. And I think big picture, they're going to be probably the most consistent moving forward. The problem I have is this guy, Trevor Lawrence, big picture. You got to take the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly sometimes is real ugly. He is not comfortable in the pocket on a consistent basis, and that's a problem.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
And away we go on an armchair quarterback Monday right here on the early line on the SportsGrid Network. My goodness, 2 hours, as we say, sometimes just isn't enough. Did you love college football on Saturday, the NFL on Sunday? By the way, the World Series is going on with the game number 3 tonight from Los Angeles, and that series is tied 1-1. Last night on Sunday Night Football, ugly uniforms, uglier performance by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Was your card ruined yesterday by some crazy upsets? Maybe it was. But this is the time we sit back and we analyze exactly what happened over the weekend and push that information forward into tonight's Monday Night Football matchup. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Joe Ranieri. And you know the energy is high because why? We're going to get after it today, and we got 2 hours to do it, Joe. Let's bring it.
I am so excited, Donnie. It was a absolute crazy last 72 hours since we last spoke to you folks, and it's only going to get crazier moving forward this week. So I'm all on it, Donnie. Let's roll.
I love it, too. And you know what else we love? I mean, high-paid college coaches expected to get their teams into the playoff picture. When they don't get there, Joe, they get fired. Let's get captivated on the coaches in college football.
Donnie, hold on to your hats here, folks, boys and girls, because the college football coaching carousel has officially gone off the rails, jumped the shark, and plummeted into a volcano of pure, unadulterated insanity here, Donnie, because yesterday we learned LSU, a supposed national title contender, fired their head coach, Brian Kelly, after a 5-3 start. And you know what his parting gift was, Donnie? A $50 million buyout. $50 million simply to not coach the LSU Tigers anymore. You've got to be kidding me, Donnie. We've already seen the head coaches of Penn State, Oregon State, Oklahoma State, and Florida get canned this season. But LSU just came over the top and dropped a $50 million bomb on the entire situation in college coaching. This isn't just coaches getting fired anymore. This is big-time college football programs acting like drunk billionaires swiping their Amex Black card just because, well, I don't know, Donnie, they're bored and they think they can do better. We're in the middle of a college football season. And these universities, by the way, rolling in TV money and booster cash, they would rather write a check with more zeros than my bank account number has ever seen, and let this guy finish instead of letting them finish the season, Donnie. I don't get it. It tells you everything you need to know about the obscene amount of money that is in college football right now. Forget about teaching kids, higher education, and all that, blah, blah, blah. This is nothing more than a ruthless, cutthroat business where a 5-3 start gets you a $50 million pink slip. And Brian Kelly at LSU, let's all be honest, that was doomed from the start, Donnie. The whole fake Southern accent, remember that? The whole dancing video. It was the worst fit imaginable. Franklin at Penn State and Napier both had the writing on the wall. So did Gundy. But to fire them in the middle of the season with substantial buyout money is just pure crazy. And these aren't jobs at Bowling Green or Kennesaw State we're talking about here, Donnie. These are football blue bloods. So this coaching cycle is going to be absolutely chaos. You've got LSU, Florida, Penn State, likely Auburn and Florida State, and possibly Oklahoma, all potentially with vacant head coaching positions. I can't imagine what Lane Kiffin's agent's phone must be doing right about now. It is pure madness, absolute madness, which brings me to the most important question of the morning here, Donnie. How do we apply for one of those jobs?
Easily. That's what we should start doing. Because, by the way, Joe, we play the numbers game as handicappers, right? How about this numbers game? There's not enough rock star coaches to go around for these rock star openings. And you're right, Joe. This isn't, hey, Illinois just opened up a spot. Ooh, Arkansas opened up a spot. Penn State, big money. Florida, big money. LSU, big money. And you hit the nail on the head. Lane Kiffin is going to be the highest paid college football coach in the history of the sport. Why? Because he's going to throw his hat in the ring for all three and not deny anything. Love it here at Ole Miss. I don't know what the future holds. Just ramping up that cash flow up and down the list. Something to keep an eye on. And you're right about this. It's one thing if you're at the school for a decade. Like James Franklin, it just didn't work in Penn State. They let you go. But also understand this. When you get fired in the middle of the season, Joe, you don't keep your recruits. The recruits bail immediately. So if you fired them at the end of the season or now, nothing changes, but at least you have stability till the end of the season. And yes, you could probably see the writing on the wall. But like LSU fires Brian Kelly. Do you think those recruits are like, hey, you know what? Now that they fired him, I'm open to the school again? No, they all bail, whether it's now or at the end of the season. It's interesting to see how it played out. But Joe is right. The coaching carousel and the money that these guys will make in the next cycle, absolutely incredible. Unreal. Let's get to some of the hottest topics across the sports landscape, Joe. The early lineup, which dealt with the late game last night. The Packers 35, the Pittsburgh Steelers 25. An early lead for the Steelers at the half completely evaporated in the second half. Why? Because the Green Bay Packers scored 4 touchdowns in the second half. Jordan Love, 363 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. The Pittsburgh defense, non-existent.
Yeah, no, it was close for a while, Donnie. I mean, it was a good game, nice back and forth. A couple of shanked field goals in the first half. Really annoyed me to no end since I did have the over in that game last night. But they more than made up for it in the second half. And really, they're framing it as the passing of the torch last night because, boy, oh boy, did Jordan Love not look like in his prime Aaron Rodgers, completing to 27 different guys, 20 consecutive completions. I mean, they picked apart that Steelers defense. And boy, oh boy, Jordan Love looked the best since that first opening week win against Detroit.
Let's get over to another game. And by the way, if you are a Jets fan, I do feel bad because once you're 0-7, the only thing you're rooting for is losses every week. No Jets fan got joy out of that victory yesterday, but I ask you the question. Joe Flacco had a passer rating of 100, didn't turn the football over with any interceptions, 223 and 2 touchdowns. The Cincinnati rushing game, which can't run on anybody, ran for 181 yards. That's 8 yards per carry and 3 touchdowns. And the Bengals lost. That defense is an absolute tragedy, but we all knew it, and nobody cared in Cincinnati to try to help it out.
Donnie, please. The whole thing is hilarious. The only thing worse than watching the Jets play football is watching the Bengals play football. That's it. And I don't blame the 40-year-old Joe Flacco there. The guy did everything he could. You can't blame Joe Burrow not being there. No. This was all on Al Golden and that defense there of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Absolutely incredible to watch that play out. You know what else is incredible? I understand sometimes it's about who you play, but just because you're playing bad football teams, you're not scraping by. Who are we talking about? The Indianapolis Colts, 38-14 over the hapless Titans team, who now sit at 1-7. And heck, maybe they can get the best draft pick again and go pick a quarterback because it ain't working right now for Cam Ward. I'll tell you what is working. 12 carries for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground for Jonathan Taylor. Added another one in the air. Daniel Jones looks like the reincarnated version of, I don't know, Dan Marino mixed with Randall Cunningham. This team is unstoppable, and Jonathan Taylor is amazing right now.
Listen, Noddy, we were covering that show on In-Game Live yesterday afternoon, and I had said, watching this guy run, I'm like, why are we not? Is this a dark horse for the MVP race? And then when we looked up his numbers, you have guys like Sam Darnold ahead of him. I mean, there are like the names of people that are considered to be MVPs ahead of Jonathan Taylor is crazy right now.
I'll tell you what else is crazy. Yesterday, the Bills dropped 40 points, but somehow Josh Allen had 1 touchdown pass. Why? Because 4 touchdowns were run on the ground for the Buffalo Bills. 2 by Allen, 2 by Cook, who had 216 yards rushing on 19 carries. They blew the doors off the Panthers off their bye, Joe.
What else can you say? I mean, that was exactly the Buffalo Bills yesterday that is probably going to be moving forward.
How about these next couple topics we'll lump together? We talked about already LSU firing their head coach, Brian Kelly. The Lakers, without their superstars, didn't need a superstar. They got 51 points yesterday out of Austin Reeves, and the Sports Equinox is today. The 4 major sports,
Yes.
Joe, all intact. That's what we care about.
That's exactly it. Buckle up. It is the greatest day of sports on earth, Donnie.
I remember those days in the summer. We dreamed about nights like this, which we're going to get. Spread lines next on the early line. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
If you watch a Mavericks game, every single play he's arguing it with the referees. I mean, if I was
Like
the
this,
ref,
his
you know,
hands are up. It's like, dude, everyone else is halfway up the floor right now, and you're still back here arguing.
Yeah. I mean, I would tee him up. There is no doubt in my mind, Gabe, the NBA's got to go to these refs and say, listen, you know what? Swallow the whistle with him.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I am willing to bet on Wemby is a triple-double ladder season-long market. I did this actually with Caitlin Clark, who had a triple-double in Game 1 and then spent the rest of the season injured. I hope that does not happen with Victor Wembanyama. 3 triple-doubles at plus 165 should be absolutely no problem for Wemby. Had 2 his rookie season, 1 last year prior to the injury.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
It is exactly why, like you said, Donnie, this time of year is the absolute best in sports. And first off, the NBA returned to NBC. And hearing that theme music, seeing Mike Tirico back on the call, seeing Michael Jordan on the screen, it just felt right? Like an old friend that you haven't seen in decades that walks back into your life.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
We've had an undefeated regular season a couple times in the NFL. The Patriots, of course, did it before losing in the Super Bowl to the Giants. The 72 Dolphins, of course, did it en route to a Super Bowl win. But to go winless is harder than to win every single game. And my New York Jets are well on their way to doing this.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
How about that opening to the show? Right here on the early line on the Sports Grid Network. It's a Monday. It's an armchair quarterback Monday. It's Donnie Rightside. It's Joe Ranier. But we always like to get you involved with things that are going to happen into the future. We can recap all day, but our goal here is to take that information of what we saw and apply it to this week's information, which is what we call today's top spread lines. We give you the spreads, but also the intricacies on why you should be paying attention to certain games. It's easy, Joe, right? We can always pick the best games of the week and give that to you, but there are storylines that we need to get to. 10:30. What's that? That's October 30th. Yeah, we got football before the weekend starts. This is a Thursday night game, and that's between Tulane and UTSA. This line opened up, Joe, as a look-ahead. FanDuel, I'm looking at 5.5 points. We're down to 3.5 in a total, which opened up around 52.5. Now sitting at 55.5. Tulane, UTSA on a Thursday night. What's the spread line here, Joe?
Well, it's interesting, Donnie, because you always like to keep an eye on the board there Sunday, Saturday night, Sunday morning to see exactly what the initial moves are. And the funny part about these two teams is they both have a week off. They were out of sight, out of mind. And yet when this line, like you mentioned, posted on the board at -5, immediately we saw money come in and drop it down to -3.5. So that is not the public, who I am sure didn't miss any Tulane or UTSA football over the weekend there, Donnie. They were waiting for this line, the pros were, and they pounced on it down to 3.5. So there is a clear already pro side to this. We'll see where the public lands. We'll keep an eye on this before Thursday, but make no mistake about it. The pros are absolutely on UTSA here.
How about the pros here? One guy used to coach for the pros. Which game are we talking about? An ACC battle on a Halloween night. That's this Friday. It's North Carolina taking on Syracuse. And Joe opened up the show talking about the coaching carousel. It might be spinning on both of these universities. North Carolina on the road as an underdog to Syracuse, catching anywhere between 2.5 and 1.5 points. A total that's listed around 46.5. Both of these teams, look at the records, 2-5 and 3-5. Halloween. Let's put a mask on one of these coaches here for some scariness from these two teams. What's the spread line with Carolina and Syracuse, Joe?
I feel terrible for UNC, but I will give them credit. I mean, that is back-to-back games, Donnie, in which they had won and made critical errors at the end of the game to lose it. We watched them, 2 weeks ago in Cal, right? Late night game, about to go into the end zone, and the running back fumbles the ball at the half-yard line into the end zone, and they end up losing. And then they did the same thing yesterday in Virginia. They had Virginia on the ropes. They went for the win in overtime by going for 2 instead of getting another overtime period, and it didn't happen for them there. Back-to-back tough losses. But I'll tell you this, Donnie, they're playing hard for Belichick. These are not kids that are rolling up and rolling over. This team looks much better and more competent, certainly defensively, than they have at the beginning of the year. And that was the big concern, right? They haven't stopped playing. Syracuse has played absolutely nobody, and they don't look good doing it, Donnie. This opened up as a pick, and we saw nothing but Syracuse money early, up to almost 2.5. It's come back down a little. I'm telling you right now, if you like North Carolina, bet them now, because by the time this game kicks, Donnie, wouldn't shock me if North Carolina's the favorite.
Texas with a big-time victory this past weekend and a huge comeback, adding life into the building, but maybe life could be getting sucked out of it. Why? Arch Manning leaves late in that game with a concussion. Chances are he probably won't be available against Vanderbilt, but they still are the favorite, Joe. Open up a 3.5-point favorite. Now we're seeing the 3s and the 2.5s across the sports landscape at a total of 45.5. Seems like Vanderbilt has tough games every single week and continues to win. Top 10 Vanderbilt, 7-1 going up against number 20 Texas here. Joe, what's the spread line for you?
The status of Arch Manning is the spread line here, Donnie, because it's being reported he suffered a concussion late in that game against Mississippi State on Saturday. So is he or is he not going to be available for this game? And Vanderbilt, I mean, listen, they're everyone's favorite darling right now, which means it might be time to sell high on them, because Diego Pavia has not exactly been ripping the ball, Donnie, and throwing it all over the place here. There are some sides here that are always going to get money, and Texas is definitely going to be one of those sides, but Vanderbilt is going to be that trendy dog no matter what moving forward here. It'll be interesting to see where this line goes once we know officially what's going on with Arch Manning. We have to keep an eye on this line.
Monday Night Football, Joe. How about this spread line? The Commanders headed to town without their starting quarterback in Jaden Daniels. And by the way, teams that didn't have their starting quarterbacks yesterday, woo-hoo-hoo, some of those backup options were not that good. Marcus Mariota gets to start against Patrick Mahomes. But how about this line, Joe? 11.5 10.5s, and 11s across the board, depending where you're shopping at, in the total of 47.5 to 48.5, depending on where you're looking. And also, if you can just get those binoculars out there, Joe, and take a look across that horizon, you know what I see? Kansas City and Buffalo. What's your spread line for this one tonight, though, Joe?
Well, it's funny. We know that obviously Mariota is going to be under center, but unlike Jaden Daniels, Mariota is going to have at his disposal Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, both playing here tonight. And we know Cliff Kingsbury is creative, right? He's a creative OC here, and Mariota has already shown to be a pretty good backup here, more than capable of putting up some points. So the question you have to ask is, this original look-ahead line was 5.5, Donnie. Not knowing who was playing or who's not playing, this thing got as high as 12.5 during the week. It has settled in right around 11 here. The total, ironically, was 51.5, and we've seen that come down to 48. So something has got to give here. I don't often like Kansas City covering big numbers, although they have already once this season. This is going to be interesting to see. Where does the late money come in, Donnie?
Where's late money come in tonight? At Game 3, Los Angeles Dodgers favored at minus 205 in a World Series game. That's because Max Scherzer's on the mound. Hint, hint. I'm going to be able to go on my buy and say, you know what? I'm focused on this World Series Game 3. What's your spread line tonight for this game, Joe?
Well, the thing that stuck out to me, Donnie, was the total. I mean, we saw 2 7.5s in a hitter's ballpark in Toronto. Now this opened up at 8. Now we're seeing 8.5s. The over money is what's interesting to me. And it can't be because the starting pitching got worse for the Dodgers, Donnie, can it?
No, Max Scherzer. Let's wave that white flag tonight. Could it be an easy Dodgers victory? We'll hit this game much more in hour number 2. But let's get to last night's Sunday Night Football action. What happened, Steelers?
Watch a Mavericks game, every single play he's arguing it with the referees. I mean, if I was
like
the refs,
hands are up. It's like, dude, everyone else is halfway up the floor right now, and you're still back here arguing.
Yeah. I mean, I would tee him up. There is no doubt in my mind, Gabe, the NBA's got to go to these refs and say, listen, you know what? Swallow the whistle with him.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I am willing to bet on Wemby is a triple-double ladder season-long market. I did this actually with Caitlin Clark, who had a triple-double in Game 1 and then spent the rest of the season injured. I hope that does not happen with Victor Wembanyama. 3 triple-doubles at plus 165 should be absolutely no problem for Wemby. Had 2 his rookie season, 1 last year prior to the injury.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
It is exactly why, like you said, Donnie, this time of year is the absolute best in sports. And first off, the NBA returned to NBC. And hearing that theme music, seeing Mike Tirico back on the call, seeing Michael Jordan on the screen, it just felt right? Like an old friend that you haven't seen in decades that walks back into your life.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We've had an undefeated regular season a couple times in the NFL. The Patriots, of course, did it before losing in the Super Bowl to the Giants. The 72 Dolphins, of course, did it en route to a Super Bowl win. But to go winless is harder than to win every single game. And my New York Jets are well on their way to doing this.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Showdown in Pittsburgh last night. The Green Bay Packers taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, Joe. We're going to get to this game as we started to handicap, or should I say started to recap it a little bit earlier in the show. I liked the Packers uniform last night. A little bit of an alternate, that icy white look. I thought it was classic. Here's what I have to say about some of these teams coming out with their throwbacks. And again, I'm not a Steelers fan. I don't sit at Acrisure Stadium. I don't go back 30 years of waving the terrible towel. But I know a good uniform when I see one. Like, my eyes well up sometimes when I see the Philadelphia Eagles in the Kelly greens. They're so far and away beautiful that I have no idea how Jeffrey Lurie in the mid-1990s was able to run a campaign to get us to midnight green because he didn't like and the optics of the old uniform. Stop the madness. It's beautiful. And then we see, like, the Los Angeles Chargers. They have one of the perfect sports uniforms in the history of sports, and they never wear their powder blues. They wear piss yellow, and then they go to wear some, navy blue. And then you see the Steelers last night. Iconic. Throw it back to the days of the mid-1970s and those plain jerseys, and the Steelers fans would eat that up, and they would look beautiful last night. But yet we see some stupid medieval times. I'm going to get a big turkey leg and watch a jousting competition Steelers. I'm glad they lost last night because of the uniform combination.
Yeah, we've seen that before, too, haven't we, Donnie? Like the whole bumblebee-looking thing.
That wasn't even the bumblebee, Joe. That wasn't even the bumblebee. They just decided to double down on it.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because nobody liked it the last time we saw it, and people didn't like it again last night. It's kind of crazy. Coupled with the fact that, you lost, and people still consider it Heinz Field, by the way. It's not great here for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, with the Ravens winning yesterday, Donnie, against the Bears, this was a big game for Pittsburgh here, who was sitting at top of that division with 4 wins. And while they still have 4 wins, and they're not nearly as secure as they might have been had they won that one. So big game for Pittsburgh. They weren't able to get it done. But the story is all about what Jordan Love and this combination of Love and Kraft. Boy, oh boy. I mean, Travis Kelce aside, this might be his last year, but let's face it, the best tight end in the NFL, his name is Tucker Kraft, that nobody talks about, Donnie.
7 for 143 and 2 touchdowns. Kraft was absolutely insane, and so was Jordan Love on the road in a big game here. You're supposedly going up against a good pass rushing defense, no sacks for the Steelers, a good man-to-man defense with a dominant cornerback / safety field. They were bad last night. 29 of 37 for 360 and 3 touchdowns for Jordan Love last night. A passer rating of 134, and even better, a QBR rating of 89.1. Just to put that in perspective, Aaron Rodgers did throw 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. He had a QBR rating of 38.7. In a nutshell, the Steelers were always built on their defense, and their defense is high-priced. It's veterans. They should be really good. They're just not anymore. So now you rely on Aaron Rodgers, who doesn't have the legs anymore, to say, you know what? I can get in the shootouts with football teams because they go dink and dunk. 6.1 yards per passing attempt for Aaron Rodgers last night. It's not good enough. That early throw was sensational to Robin Wilson, but we don't get that deep attack there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. More of a plotting offense. But also, Joe, sometimes I wish I could get bets back. Like, I didn't have a wager last night, but I said Christian Watson was anywhere between 16 to 18 and a half yards. I'm saying, like, that should just be an automatic bet. 4 for 85. He adds an extra dimension to that offense that can get deep here. I loved what I saw out of the Steelers, out of the Packers offense, Pittsburgh's defense. They got me so angry, Joe. I can't even spit it out right now. They were that bad.
Well, there was no offense in the second half for the Steelers, because if you take away the garbage time score at the end, that'll give you a better idea of just how ridiculously one-sided, keeping in mind that they were facing a 9-point halftime deficit, were the Packers here, and yet they only gave up really 3 points in the second half if you take that garbage time touchdown away. So they were really good, and unfortunately for Pittsburgh, that defense, a lot of question marks, Donnie. A lot of question marks. No, none.
They're all there. No sacks. What are you doing, man? All that money that you're making out of remember Cam Hayward? I'm not coming back unless you pay me $5 million more bucks. They should get a rebate on that extra $5 million bucks that they gave him here. But understand this, the NFC North, this is a 2-team race, man. It's the Packers and the Lions. 5-1-1 Packers, 5-2 Lions. A collision course we're setting up for down the stretch, Joe.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Now, if that version of Jordan Love can continue, then they're going to be just fine, I think, with that defense. Ultimately, it's going to come down to those two, I think, anyway, in the NFC. It's going to be one of those two representing, no offense to your Eagles, but those two teams are extremely dangerous, Donnie.
Don't you worry. Saquon Barkley's back. The boys are here. The Philadelphia the Eagles, baby. Let's talk about Monday Night Football next. That's between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Washington Commanders. Come on back. It's the early line.
And sometimes your offense can benefit your defense.
Yeah.
They are going to need to sustain drives, I believe. They can't go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and all of a sudden Price and Jeremiah Love are ripping your defense for 5 and 8 yards per carry. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day. So we'll see how this game plays out. I do favor the rushing attack and physicality of Notre Dame. The way they're running the football right now is as good as anybody.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think I just smiled for the first time in relation to this game.
Yeah, my misery, right? My misery cost you a smile.
That was the price to
This
pay.
game is like watching paint dry. I mean, 21-0 in the first half. We have no action in the second. Brian Thomas, glass house. The guy can't stay on the field. His stone hands today.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Don't worry, too much. I don't think Kendrick Bourne is a bad play. He's probably a good streamer, but I don't think he's going to get you 10 for 140 again. And he got you 10 for 140 again. And now he gets Mac Jones again this week playing quarterback. And Mac Jones has just found this connection. Now, you do have a returning George Kittle. That's going to put a wrinkle in this offense. Eventually, you should get a returning Brock Purdy. So Bourne's value is at its zenith. That's when you try to sell guys off.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
$17,848 have been bet on this question, Joe, at Kalshi. How many pro football games will Taylor Swift attend this season?
They average an average of 9.3 games during this season here, and a lot of that has to do with her reduced touring schedule, and this maybe being his final NFL season.
Incredible stuff here.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Let's get busy. It's Monday Night Football. What a way to end the week. And by the way, it would have been when the NFL was coming up with their schedules, last March, April, sometime in that frame. Like, you know what? What an awesome Monday Night Football game this is going to be. The Kansas City Chiefs probably still in control of the AFC West, but we're going to bring out the Washington Commanders and their exciting second-year quarterback in Jaden Daniels on a team that made it all the way through to the NFC Championship game last year. Not the case this year. Washington just looking to try to be a 500 football team without their starting quarterback, but they are going to get some help back tonight, Joe, with some wide receivers. But if you can't get the football to those wide receivers, doesn't even matter. A double-digit favorite tonight for the Kansas City Chiefs, sitting between 11.5 and 10.5, depending on where you're shopping at in the total of 47.5 to 48.5. It looks like it's possibility of a easy win for the Kansas City Chiefs. Is that the case in your mind tonight as we take a look at this game's projections?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, as good as Kansas City has looked, which is great, we've seen this story before. They have not been great, and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have not been great covering these kinds of double-digit favorite spreads at Arrowhead, Donnie, and I'll tell you why. It's because they usually boat race teams early and take their foot off the gas and then go, 14 plays in the second half, 13 plays, and they just milk the clock here. I mean, they have no intention of going into some sort of wild shootout here. They are going to score early. They're going to score often. And then at the end, Donnie, they're not going to keep their foot on the gas. We know this with Andy Reid and Mahomes. So I'd be very reluctant to look anywhere at laying this number, given how bad Washington's defense is. Don't get me wrong, and they're terrible. But with the weapons back, I think there should be a ton of points, way more than 47.5 points in this game here tonight.
Yeah, because we're taking a look at an offense, too. When you sort of break it down, the Kansas City Chiefs, you can't use their full season in totality because they didn't have all their weapons that would be available. So you take a look at the past couple games, right? You lose to the Jaguars, but you put up 28 points. Then you get your top wide receivers back. 30 points against the Lions here, 31 points for the Raiders. And by the way, if you're watching that Raiders game, it could have been 60 points in that game. They just basically took their foot off the gas pedal in the second half because the Raiders brought nothing to the table. And maybe that's the case where you're looking at Kansas City firing on all cylinders on offense with Rashee Rice back, your top three wideouts, getting the running game going. Patrick Mahomes looks great. But then that defense under Steve Spagnuolo also starting to sink its teeth into. Holding the Lions to 17 points, that's pretty good. Shutting out the Raiders, even though how bad they are, a shutout in the NFL, that's an impressive performance. And then you roll the dice tonight in that football game. But if we are focused, Joe, on the quarterback position, Patrick Mahomes, 274.5 passing yards is his prop. Marcus Mariota is 195.5. What always catches my attention, usually the baseline for quarterbacks touchdown passes is 1.5. Could be plus money or maybe minus 130, minus 140, minus 150s, and minus 160s if you're a heavily favored guy. But now we take a look at Patrick Mahomes, like, we don't even want to give you that opportunity. 2.5, and yes, it's a plus 120, but if you ask me tonight, Donnie, does Patrick Mahomes throw 2 touchdown passes? Probably almost guarantee that. 3 sometimes is just a bridge a little bit too far for me to buy into. How do we look at the quarterback props tonight, Joe, from your perspective?
Yeah, so listen, I like him early, and I like Mahomes and company to be able to get him done. I think that the second half would worry me if you're looking at the over for Mahomes, simply because this defense of Washington, Donnie, they can't tackle, they can't stop anybody. I think they're going to have plenty of success rushing the ball in this game. So I would tend to look at the running backs more than anything else here for Kansas City, because they're not going to drop Mahomes back 40 times in this game. It makes absolutely no sense if they can't stop anybody. And I don't think Washington's defense can. So I would lean towards the under in Mahomes' situation. And I think Mariota's going to have no choice but to have to drop back and play catch up the whole game. He's the guy I would look towards the over.
That's tough to do, too, because, again, and also you can be shell-shocked from yesterday. Hey, Kirk Cousins, veteran guy, he was pathetic. Andy Dalton, he was absolutely pathetic. Like, there were some old guys at quarterback yesterday that now make you look and say another older guy. I mean, not as old maybe as Kirk Cousins, but still older than Marcus Mariota. We don't know what we're going to get out of that, and you're playing in a hostile environment on a Monday Night Football game and also going up against the Steve Spagnuolo defense. But let's look at the guys that are expected to score touchdowns. Not crazy pricing, which you like. Travis Kelce, minus 110 price. He's actually the favorite in the clubhouse in the odds market for the most juice on a player to score. Rashee Rice, minus 105. Xavier Worthy, plus 160. And then you see Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt there, the first guy to pop up for the Commanders at that plus 190 price. Pacheco, 2-1. Where there are eyes go, Joe, tonight on the touchdown market between Washington and Kansas City.
Yeah, well, Kelce definitely will have my vote there, simply, Donnie, because
look at how angry Joe got at that point right now. His eyes were going right to Kelce and then dropped out because it was how upsetting that was. But let's understand the task at hand here as we take a look at, like, the rushing props here that we get into as well. Isaiah Pacheco, 49.5. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, 47.5. Patrick Mahomes, 23.5. Marcus Mariota, 28.5. And Deebo Samuel, 4.5. Now, understand this. Like, I look at Pacheco. 49.5 probably should be a solid number. Why? The game flow. They're double-digit favorites. You're looking at the end of the game where maybe Kansas City isn't throwing the football and looking just to establish that running game and run the clock out. That's why it makes some sense. So, Joe, we're talking about rushing props at this point here, but I want to get back to your touchdown market. You were so heavy on Kelce that, you know what? The internet was like, yeah, we don't need to hear this energy anymore.
Yeah, the power just wasn't cooperating there, Donnie. But I'll tell you this, Kelce I like in the end zone because, let's face it, those linebackers of Washington can't cover anybody. And we know in the red zone where Mahomes is going to look here. But the running back, again, I think Pacheco is live in this game because I think he's going to have plenty of chances in the second half to get his hands on the ball and have opportunities inside the 20. So I would look at both of those guys. And listen, if the game is out of hand in the second half, can we count on Rice? Can we count on Worthy? Are they really going to be taking all of these crazy shots downfield? I would keep it with the short yardage guys. I think they have the best shot of getting in the end zone tonight.
You take a look at the rushing props, too, as I was talking about, Joe. Like Isaiah Pacheco's 49.5, because the game script is correct. Kansas City is going to have a lead and maybe bleeding the clock late in the second half. But I always get intrigued by these type of numbers. Like Deebo Samuel's 4.5. You're betting on, is Deebo Samuel going to get the football in this game for at least one rush? If he does, he gets 3 yards. It was a good handicap. He just didn't get his number. But one carry to get 5 yards is interesting. Marcus Mariota is another one. He does have some legs here and a good pass rush for Kansas City. I usually look towards that because, Joe, if you're right about he's going to have to be throwing in the fourth quarter, that means they're dropping back relentlessly. And that also means Spagnuolo knows that, and he's bringing the pass rush, which means you could get those, hey, the defensive ends come up the field, I got a lane, there's 8 yards there, and away we go. Marcus Mariota, 28.5 rushing yards, I think makes a little bit of sense here, Joe.
I agree. I think he's going to be scrambling. He's going to be running. But the difference between, him, Andy Dalton, and Kirk Cousins is we've already seen him this year. We've already seen him play a couple of games, and actually the offense was pretty reliable in scoring some points. So I do think they're going to be able to get some points, but he is going to have to absolutely use his legs, Donnie, to be effective in this one.
How about some of these wide receivers? Rashee Rice back in the fold, 67.5. He's the odds-on favorite right now for the highest number of receiving yards. Travis Kelce, 40.5. Xavier Worthy, 46.5. Then we have McLaurin at 45.5, coming back off of injury. Deebo Samuel, a little bit banged up, but he should go tonight, 42.5. Does anybody get your attention? By the way, Kelce's only 40.5. Somebody's got to catch passes if you're looking at 275 as a prop here for Mahomes.
Well, I think Rashee Rice is for a couple of reasons. I like his over receptions prop, Donnie, at 5.5, and I like his over yardage for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's going to have a very favorable matchup against that secondary of Washington who can't cover anybody. Yeah, and I think last time out he had 10 targets. I think Mahomes went his way 10 times. Not to mention, Donnie, he's a lot fresher than anybody else because he hasn't played a game. So the legs are good. He's not banged up. I think that, they're going to target him early, often, and go over that yardage prop as well as the receptions prop.
Yeah, take a look at Xavier Worthy, 46.5. And again, we talk about Zach Ertz, that blanket that you usually typically have over the field, 32.5. You're going to be thrown in the fourth quarter. That's a lot of dump-offs going away right there. You know who else we got to bring it to the fold? It's Tom Vecchio. Let's talk some of these props on Monday Night Football next, right here on the Early Line.
And sometimes your offense can benefit your defense.
Yeah.
They are going to need to sustain drives, I believe. They can't go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and all of a sudden Price and Jeremiah Love are ripping your defense for 5 and 8 yards per carry. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day. So we'll see how this game plays out. I do favor the rushing attack and physicality of Notre Dame. The way they're running the football right now is as good as anybody.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think I just smiled for the first time in relation to this game.
Yeah, my misery, right? My misery cost you a smile.
That was the price.
This game is like watching paint dry. I mean, 21-0 in the first half. We have no action in the second. Brian Thomas, glass house. The guy can't stay on the field. His stone hands today.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
You don't worry, too much. I don't think Kendrick Bourne is a bad play. He's probably a good streamer, but I don't think he's going to get you 10 for 140 again. And he got you 10 for 140 again. And now he gets Mac Jones again this week playing quarterback. And Mac Jones has just found this connection. Now, you do have a returning George Kittle. That's going to put a wrinkle in this offense. Eventually, you should get a returning Brock Purdy. So Bourne's value is at its zenith. That's when you try to sell guys off.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
$17,848 have been bet on this question, Joe, at Kalshi. How many pro football games will Taylor Swift attend this season?
They average an average of 9.3 games during this season here, and a lot of that has to do with her reduced touring schedule, and this maybe being his final NFL season.
Incredible stuff here.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Some stellar action on the gridiron yesterday, and how can we transform that information into Monday Night Football? So what we're basically saying is if you have a really good quarterback that's established and is going to be under center, going up against a veteran who's not really the starter, watch out if you're backing that bad quarterback, which could be Marcus Mariota. I'm Donnie Rightside, and he's Joe Ranieri. Now we bring in Tom Vecchio for that prop perspective tonight on Monday Night Football. Tommy, how are we feeling today on this Monday?
Doing good. Certainly an interesting game, given the fact that we're not going to be seeing Daniels out there for the Commanders. The line is kind of all over the place. I was talking to Brady last night about it on In Game Live, where he said he was seeing some 12s. There was also some 10.5s, which is not generally something that you see when we have a 2-point gap across the market, where it's only just a point, maybe a point and a half at places, but a full 2-point gap is relatively interesting. We're also dealing with a 47.5 total, which is rather low when the Chiefs have a 30-team total. So if they're going to be covering a game where they have a 30-team total, that means that the Commanders simply aren't going to be scoring.
Now, you're right about that. By the way, yesterday, this is what we love about the NFL, and also could be maddening if you're taking sides. Tom and I talked yesterday, and we're going over a couple games. Jets offense. I don't care if they're going against Cincinnati.
Oof.
What is up? They have nobody there. They almost ran up 40 points. And then you take a look at a game like the Texans. C.J. Stroud has struggled all year. Now he has no weapons, and he goes 30 of 39 for 318 and 2 touchdowns against San Francisco in a victory there. It's been wild. So, Tom, let me talk about the quarterback position and what the expectations are tonight on Monday Night Football. Mahomes is really good. Kansas City's certainly in a groove, but I know an angle to play sometimes is like in the NBA. Boy, it doesn't matter how good your team is. If there's a blowout in hand, you're not getting a full 4 quarters out of your player that you need to get those props. Looking at the quarterbacks tonight, Marcus Mariota and also Patrick Mahomes, which way we should be playing tonight?
I think Mahomes is playing some of the best ball that he has, but I like him under 274.5 passing yards tonight. If you look back to last week with Dak Prescott, and I'm not saying that they're the same quarterback, but the Cowboys put up 44 points. Dak threw for 264. You're like, he threw for under 275 and they put up 44 points. Obviously, the running game was working for them. So I have 2 props tonight that are very, very correlated, which is going to Mahomes under 274.5. We look back at some of these recent game logs. Last week, yes, they torched the Raiders 286 from him. 257, 318, 270, 224. Now, obviously, these games are different sample sizes that they got Rashid Rice back last week, but he's barely going over this, and I don't expect the Commanders to push him in this game that he needs to pass for 300 yards. If he does that, it's simply based on pure efficiency, and he's just slicing them apart in 3 quarters.
I'm with you, Ty. I kind of think points are coming here tonight. And I guess the only reason that they might is because in the second half, Kansas City is going to be so far ahead that all they're going to do is run the ball and just chew up clock here. So how do you approach it that way?
It's tough for me to say that the Chiefs don't cover. And I know 11.5 is a big number, 12.5 is a big number. If you can get the 10.5, I'll obviously love that with the Chiefs. But to say they win this game by 14 points, if I were to wake up tomorrow and see that, I am not surprised in any capacity. So if they are ahead, I fully expect them to be giving the ball to Isaiah Pacheco. He's coming off some good games, and I think they're going to involve him in the offense more and more. Kareem Hunt did pop up on the injury report on Friday. He was a full participant in practice on Saturday, but Pacheco is still the guy that I believe they want to get the ball to. So I will take the over. Also, given the fact that we're getting plus money at it, I love.
If we look at the touchdown scoring market tonight, Tom, we're just going over it. Travis Kelce is the favorite right now, but a slight price opting at a minus 110. Rashid Rice minus 105. Everybody else is plus money. And you always use those correlation times if you're right. If we're looking at 4+ touchdowns possibility for the Chiefs, somebody has to score. And we're not talking about Jonathan Taylor at minus 400, even though he scored 3 touchdowns yesterday. We don't have that. There's probably going to be at least 3 touchdown scores for the Chiefs tonight. What do we think about that?
I don't mind going to Worthy, and it's simply based on the fact that he had a bit of a quiet game last week when Rice came back. And this is what we may see from their offense. Now that they're fully healthy, Pacheco, Hunt, Kelce, Rice, Worthy, Hollywood Brown. Not everyone's going to score every game. And Donnie, we've always talked about this, the belief that quarterbacks should keep their star wide receivers happy. It's just okay, if Rice doesn't score this week, I'll be on him next week. Worthy didn't score last week, I should be on him this week. It's just get everyone involved, keep the ball rolling. It's not going to be every player every week, but at least alternate weeks for some of these players.
Yeah.
So who on the Washington side should we be looking at? I mean, Scary Terry is back. Debo is back. They don't have much of a running game because they're always playing from behind. So I don't know. Who do we look at here?
I want to trust Zach Ertz. And if you look positionally, the Chiefs are really, really good when it comes to the fewest yards allowed overall in the season to opposing tight ends. However, I am worried about the injuries with Terry and Debo coming back, that I'm not fully sold on them. And I'm like, oh, they're back. I want to buy into their overs. So I want to trust Zach Ertz just being that safety option for Mariota. But I do understand it's a very tough matchup, but it's also a very low number for Zach Ertz. And if one of those receivers starts the game but doesn't finish, no one should be shocked.
Tom, let me have a little fun with you here tonight on this game, because some of those new markets open up, and I've actually been taking more look in college football than pro, but total yardage for the NFL teams tonight,
Right.
Kansas City and Washington. Kansas City, Tom, is 396.5. So you're basically rounding up to 400 yards, and the Commanders are 314.5. Just doing some quick computations in your mind, as I see right there. Do any of those make sense? Because I look at the 396 and say they probably should get there. But if we're correlating, Tom, that let's just say Mahomes doesn't go to 275, does that mean they're rushing for like 140 yards in this game, or do we just bleed this clock out?
So the Commanders are giving up 126 rushing yards per game. It's, a little bit worse than half in the league. The bottom half, I should say. So if Mahomes, let's say he ends at 270, 126, like we're right at that number of 396 or 395. So I'd be inclined to say the over. And I don't know if that's somewhat of a hedge where it's like, Mahomes could go under, but they can go over due to the rushing.
Yeah, interesting stuff here. Before we get you out of here, Tom, World Series game number 3 is tonight.
Yeah.
Monster favorite for the Dodgers. 1-1 series as it heads back to L.A. Any thoughts tonight on this game?
Scherzer needs to go at least 5 innings with 2 runs or fewer, or this game's flying over. Because if the Blue Jays cannot, if it gets to Blue Jays bullpen and Scherzer's already given up 3 runs, this game's going way over.
I smell a team total possibility, and bye coming up a little bit later in the show. That's how we get down. We always like to thank Tom for rising and grinding with us early on a Monday. Play a little armchair quarterback. Thank you, Tom. We'll talk to you soon. That's for Donnie and Joe. We'll be right back after this short break.
The best part about it is that they're just going about handling their business. I was listening to Arvell Reese and his literally like 5-word sentences about himself and some of the things that Caleb has been talking about. The dudes are just so locked in here about just doing their job and not worrying about all of the other things and awards. They know all those happen when you go win and you win decisively.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to have bet tracking for the first time. If you have a FanDuel account, you'll be able to track your bet on the Prime Video games. And tonight, if you are part of the ESPN Mega Content Service, we understand from an organization called Antenna that 2 million people at least have the ESPN Mega Content or Unlimited service. You will be able to track your bets also on tonight's NBA coverage. So this is the beginning of a major new era for basketball on television.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Like Marchand said, they're all a bunch of dirtballs, so I fit in with them. You know what I mean? Remember, like, the Phillies baseball team, like, with Kroc and Dykstra and all those guys? Like, yeah, they're just a bunch of dirtballs, right? And that's what the Panthers are. They're all the same. Like, they're all like to drink. They're all tough. They're all dirty in the corner. You know what I mean? They'll all do whatever it takes to win, but that's why they've won 2 cups in a row.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
For him and Cignetti are the most Spurrier-like personalities, Spurrier-like head coaches, and Cignetti's locked up. And you know what? And Ole Miss could very well lock Lane Kiffin up, but he will always be a fighting under. At Ole Miss, you will always be a little bit of an underdog because of your play. At Florida, you don't ever have to be an underdog because of their resources.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Donnie right side and Joe Ranieri, the early line on a Monday. Hey, it's football season. It's armchair quarterback. Yes, did you know the World Series was going on? Because we had two pretty good games from Friday night into Saturday night, which left us with a 1-1 series and a travel day on Sunday before we take another game. Game number 3 at Chavez Ravine tonight. We're going to handicap that game in just a few moments. But to recap what happened, Joe, I told you, I like the over in game number 1. 15 total runs. Blake Snell was hit. Grand slams popping off. The Blue Jays finally bloodied the Dodgers in game number 1 to take that 11-4 and a 1-0 series lead.
Yeah, it was, to say the least, an interesting turn of events here between game 1 and game 2 here, because you kind of had to scratch your head and go, wow, if Toronto can do this in game 1, like how many runs are we getting? And yet, for game 2, Donnie, they came out and, well, wouldn't you know it, the total was still 7.5 in that game 2. What a totally different outcome.
Crazy stuff, because then that flip around Saturday where the pressure was on the Los Angeles Dodgers on the road. You don't want to go down 0-2, even though you're headed back home for 3 games. So they lean toward Yamamoto and be like, yeah, it's your time of the year. Just throw complete games and don't worry about our bullpen. He did exactly that. The Jays scored 11 game 1, 1 run in game 2, and only 4 hits. The Dodger bats came alive and came up with the victory to even the series, Joe, 1-1 Saturday night.
You can protect that bullpen with your starting pitching. If that's Dave Roberts, then you are good to go here in this series, and you will win it again. The problem seems to happen, and we've talked about it all season long, is what happens if your starting pitching can't go 5 innings or only 5 innings, and then you've got to cobble together the second half of the game with bullpens. I mean, both these bullpens aren't great, Donnie, and that's the fear here if you're backing either the Dodgers or the Blue Jays in this series.
Absolutely, which then swings our attention to game number 3 tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock out there Pacific. A heavy favorite for the for the Dodgers today, going up against the Toronto Blue Jays. The reason I bring up Toronto is Max Scherzer is going to get the call. He gutted out his last start, but Max Scherzer is just not a good pitcher. And this was the thought probability, Joe, before the series started. Every single game the Dodgers are going to pitch, there's no, wonder who we're going to put out there and wonder how he'll do. You're expected an ace performance out of the Dodgers when Toronto's now in that mode of, I hope we can get a couple innings here and piecemeal this game together. That's why we have a minus 205 price point as a favorite towards the Dodgers and a total listed at 8. Monster favorite. Toronto has shown that they can bring out the bats. They scored 11 runs game number 1, shut down in game number 2. Can they bounce back tonight? But more importantly, can you take that, let's call it plus 172 price and say, let me roll Toronto tonight?
I can't, because I think, expecting Mad Max, another one of these 40-year-old pitchers here to come up and have enough left in the tank after he saved them against Seattle, to do it now on the road against the Dodgers, a team in which, let's face it, he played for them and then left them hanging when all of a sudden he couldn't pitch in the postseason when he was there, and they ended up losing that series. So, yeah, I don't. I think there is, again, a clear advantage in starting pitching for the Dodgers, only this time they're in their building, and we're going to have to get a lot of innings out of this bullpen. I don't think Scherzer's going 6 or 7 here to save them tonight. I think this is a game that could very well get ugly early.
And this tells you everything you need to know, Joe. Like we talk about in the props tonight for that Monday Night Football game. Everybody loves touchdown props. The same thought process comes through when you're talking about home run props in Major League Baseball. As I'm looking at some of the pricing, we're in the World Series now. So usually it's like, hey, sometimes harder to score here. It's not an 11.5 total. You're not playing in Colorado. Shohei Ohtani's price point tonight to hit a home run, Joe, plus 146. Plus 1. That should be to get a base hit. No, people. That's to hit a home run tonight. So when I read odds, that's me saying a certain book is telling you, don't you dare bet this. We know he's going deep. You do too, but we're not going to give you a fair price. Plus 146 on Ohtani home run? What world am I living in?
I don't know. I mean, that is not a good bet. That is not a favorable bet for you in any way, shape, or form. The idea that we got a less than 2-to-1 chance of him actually getting a pitch that he likes in order to, no. Not to mention, it's not like he's been crushing the ball. He had one good game in the postseason, the one that he pitched. And outside of that, what has he done that we've missed here?
Exactly. And by the way, player strikeouts, Joe. Max Scherzer over 4.5. That's juiced at a plus 118 price. You take a look at Tyler Glass now, over 5.5, minus 152. The expectations for one pitcher to strike guys out, one pitcher to not strike guys out. Hour number 2 coming up on a Monday morning edition of the Early Line. Love to see it. We'll be right back.